Hi guys! So this week we're going on a weekend trip to Washington, D.C. So me and my hubby are driving from New York in a few hours and we're just going to spend the weekend in Washington to look at the monuments and just spend a quiet weekend together before the Christmas holidays start. So I thought I would take a watercolor kit with me to Washington, D.C. And I had done this previous review on these watercolors, the Sargent art watercolor tubes, and I actually really like them. So I thought I would create a travel kit, a cheap watercolor travel kit to take with me to Washington to try them out and do some like real life, urban sketching over there. So I had the idea of taking one of these cheap watercolor like kid palettes. This one is from Jot Watercolor. It is from Dollar Tree. I actually bought it for $1 at Dollar Tree. And it's not that great quality, as you can imagine. At least the paint is not. And I didn't really have another palette that I wanted to use for these paints. And I'll link the review of these paints to the description so you can see it. So I thought, you know what, this palette, since I don't really use it because it's not that great, I might want to just take out all these paints and replace them with the Sargent art paints to take it with me on the trip. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. And then I'll post a separate video of some of the sketching that I do there in Washington, D.C. to see how it comes out. So just to give you an idea, and I'm not going to do a full review of these Jot watercolors, but these are, similar to the Crayolas of the world. They are cheaper, but they do contain less amount of paint. So if you look at the wells, and just compare the Crayola wells to the Jot wells, Crayola is bigger. So if we take, actually kind of took one of these out already yesterday. So if you take one of these out and compare it to like this color, let's say, I guess it is about the same size, but not a lot of paint. If you can see, I barely use these and they're already running out. The pigment load, it's quite weak. So let me show you some sketches that I did. So I'm also comparing to Prang, which is also a kind of a kid's watercolor paint, but it is a lot more pigment in it, and a lot of crafts and crafters and artists like to use it. So this is basically, this sketch was done with Jot. This one was done with Crayola, and this one was done with Prang. As you can see, the Jot watercolors are very light and weak. It doesn't look bad, but it was very hard to get this much pigment in there. I had to do multiple layers, and they don't layer very well. So it was quite hard to do that. Crayola is more pigmented, but it's not good for layering either. And Prang was the best. They mix really well, they flow really well, they layer very well. So as you can see, the Jot ones they're just, hard to use and not that wonderful. So since I never use them, I'll repurpose this palette to put some of these Sargent art paints and take them with me. And these are other sketches that I did, so I can show you these. This is also done with the Jot watercolors. Again, it's very streaky. It was hard to layer and like paint that little boat in there. So I will get rid of these. I hate to throw away materials, but in this case, these are non-toxic, and so I don't feel so bad throwing them out, because if they go into trash, and there's very little paint left, so it's not that much material, and they were also very cheap. So if I'm going to throw anything out, I guess this would be it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out all these paints from here, and I mean, they're pretty dry, so, and I'm going to just leave the wells empty. And I'm probably gonna wipe this out a little bit. I'm probably gonna spray it with some paint, with some water, I'm sorry, and just like clean it out before I squeeze any new paints in there, so that they're clean and there's no contamination. And also, I didn't mention, it comes with this brush, which is awful. It's like the worst brush in the world. So I am gonna probably leave it in my drawer in case I need to use masking. Maybe I'll use that for masking or something along those lines when I need to use a brush that I don't mind that if it gets damaged. So I'll save that one, and we might find some use for it later. So I am a little bit of a clean freak, so I do want this to be fairly clean. Okay, perfect. So there we go. We have our empty palette right here. You could also take these out and put some half pans in here. I mean, this does fit half pans. And you could use it that way. But since we have the wells already, and I don't want to use my nice half pans for this cheap paint, I am going to pick, there are 8 colors, so I'm going to pick 8 colors from this, just to show you from my previous video when I did the review on these. These are the colors. So I think I'm going to pick cool yellow, warm and cool reds, 1 blue, because we don't have more than 1 blue. I might take maybe both greens and the burnt sienna, or 1 green, the violet and the burnt sienna. I'm not sure, because that violet is really pretty, but I don't really have a lot of use for violet in general. I don't use it too much. So, but it is quite a lovely color. So I might actually do that. I'll use violet. I'll do one of the greens and the burnt sienna. I think that'll be good. I'll use the Viridian because I think that's more transparent than the chrome green. So I'm just gonna squeeze some of these into the palette. Okay, I'm gonna squeeze these into the palette. I think I'm gonna start this way, and I'm gonna squeeze the lemon yellow here. These, because they are Scholastic grade, you'll need quite a bit of paint to paint something, so the paint doesn't go a long way. I mean, but given the price, they're just such a great value. But I just want to make sure I have enough paint to sketch over the weekend. So I'm gonna just put enough paint in here. And this carmine color is my favorite, I think. It is so beautiful. And let's see. So I have 4 wells left. I thought I was gonna do the Viridian. I'll do the Viridian. And the black is actually a really nice black too. So, decisions. What should I do? I have 4 wells. Purple, blue, green, and maybe I'll do the black. The black is it's actually a really nice black, even though I don't use black that much, but every now and then I like to use black. All right, so that was the purple. this is going to be the blue. And notice that I'm cleaning the screw, like the top screws of this, because otherwise the paint will dry in there and it'll be hard to get it out. And okay, this is the Viridian. And this is the black. All right, so that looks really good. I'm actually tempted to use this part here where the brush used to sit, because none of my brushes that I'm taking fit in there really. I'm gonna take a few water brushes, sorry, and I'm tempted to put a little bit of burnt sienna in here, just so we have it. So I'm gonna put it in this like spot right there. I'm gonna put it right there, and because I'll use it less. And this white, I'm actually gonna put it a little bit white, even though I like to use white straight up from the tube. Usually when I use it, in this case, I don't want to carry around tubes with me, so I think that's it. Well, since we were squeezing them all out, you know what? I'm just going to squeeze the rest of them out. So these are the colors that I use less, so I will squeeze them here. And in case I need a little bit of it, I have it. You know what? Why not? These are really cheap, so it doesn't matter. So there we go, I have it. We have all the 12 colors in here. I added the white, I added a yellow ochre, chrome green, and a burnt sienna. So now we have our complete palette. And we're leaving in a couple of hours, so I need to finish packing my bags. And I'm gonna take this with me too, just so you can see it. This is my little travel set along with these paints. I'm gonna take 3 water brushes, 2 Sakura Koi water brushes, a large tip, a medium tip, and a small SIG watercolor brush. That's a tiny fine tip. I'm also gonna take a Da Vinci, I think this is Da Vinci. What is this? This is Da Vinci Primo travel brush. This is actually a really nice travel brush. I'll take my Sharpie pen, pencil, a white jelly roll, gel pen. I have some washi tape and my trusty eraser here, the kneaded eraser, which I love for watercolor paper, especially because it doesn't really scratch the paper too much or remove the sizing. And then I'm going to take the Strathmore mixed media paper sketchbook that I've used in the past to do some sketches. So we'll try it out in Washington, and I'll post another video from a sketch when I go to Washington. So I'll see you in Washington.